Hi, welcome back to RohrichKnose Podcast. I'm RohrichKnose. I'm a plastic surgeon in Dallas, Texas. So welcome to this session about branding and what is branding and how we can develop our own brand and does it really matter? And I think it's a huge, huge topic, and we have Erik Sletten here with us, who's a brand expert.
Thank you.
And he's going to tell us a little bit about branding and what it really means and why it's important to all of us, whether as individuals or as companies. And you know, Erik, I actually heard Jeff Bezos talk a little bit on a podcast about branding because he was being interviewed and they said, well, does Amazon really sell a lot of stuff? And it was interesting. He said, no, we sell our brand.
Yes.
We developed our brand because when you look at the name Amazon, I think of the river Amazon,
Yeah, that's
before
right.
Amazon. Now, of course, you never think of the river, you think of Amazon. When's my Amazon coming
That's
to my
right.
doorstep? So tell us about branding. What is branding? Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Going off of Jeff Bezos, right? He has a wonderful quote that describes this. He says, brands are for companies what reputations are for people. So his description is that the organization takes on basically a life form, the brand does, right? And it is your reputation and your customer's perception.
Right.
That's what a brand really is. Now, in regards to branding, Steve Jobs actually says it really simple, and I love it. He says branding is one thing. He said it's trust, right? So trust developed with the consumer through the experiences shared, and that creates your story. So your brand is your reputation, branding your story. And then when we're looking at that in regards to marketing is the methodologies you use to share that story. So I like to say that branding is your story and marketing your microphone. It allows the consumer to get to know you and engage with you in different platforms and really grows and evolves your brand over time.
Yeah, and that is so true. When you looked at the branding of Apple in the Steve Jobs era, they never talked about their phone.
Never.
They talked about life and the experience, and they showed people,
Yes.
and they showed the icon. They didn't show, it was amazing. Now, it's changed now because they're branding.
Yes.
They're branding to marketing now. They're showing the iPhone. So it's right, and you're right. And he was a tough guy,
Very.
from what I heard, but he wanted everybody to be at his level, which is hard to be. And but trust is I think that's brilliant, don't you think,
Yes.
about branding, because it's who and what you are.
Yes, and where nonverbals come in substantially when we're talking about developing trust. So Princeton psychologists did a study on this not that many years ago, where they showed subjects images of people in a tenth of a second, truly a blink of an eye.
Boom.
And what they were able to figure out very quickly is the level of trustworthiness they had with that person in the image. And what they also showed in that study was the longer they showcased that image to the subject, they didn't change their mind on that perception of that person. It actually increased their confidence. So their gut instinct was right. So when we're talking about this in the realms of a business or for plastic surgery, right? People are judging your organization, your business, and the people within it within a blink of an eye.
I know.
And we're playing in a game of seconds without second chances. Because if your organization does not convey a high level of quality, especially when you're requesting a lot of money involved with your service, then they will exit and go to someone else in the market who can meet those needs. And especially if you have a big pool of people to pull from, a
Right.
big market, they're going to find that pretty easily. So you have to be very attention and detail oriented of what develops trust with your customer.
Well, fascinating. So how do you develop the brand? I mean, how do you develop, what are the three main steps on developing that brand, that trust, that, hey, I want to see that person in plastic surgery, or
Right.
So how do you develop that?
Yeah.
Walk us through that.
Yeah, so Jen Gottlieb has a book called Be Seen, and she says it really, really well. She said that you have to first be creative. So be creative in your vision, right? So what that does is an attraction to the consumer, to them to want to engage because it's authentic to you, right? So that's the first element. And what happens with authenticity is typically trust develops as just a byproduct of that, because it's real, right? The next thing is to be connected, and that means to be connected to the consumer. What value are you truly trying to provide to them, right? And Bezos talks about this as customer obsession. It's one of their principles at Amazon. So you have to be very well connected in that. And the other thing on the connection side, you have to be connected in your field. So again, what we talked about earlier a little bit with leadership, you have to be able to exercise your knowledge off of others who have done that and vice versa. That helps you expand your business quicker and your brand faster because you get lessons learned that people have already gone through. And then last, you have to be visible. You have to be visible in the market.
Yeah.
So you can have the best product, the best service, the best team, and deliver the best customer experience, but if nobody knows you exist, it's going to be hard to come and work with you.
AKA social media today,
Yes,
right?
Yes, that's right.
Right.
So being visible is incredibly important. And I love the Elliott Group out of Arizona talked about this. It's an obligation for you to actually advertise, because if you truly believe that you can provide the best service in surgery to your patients and your employees provide the best customer service, you wouldn't want them to go somewhere else to have a poorer experience. So it's incredibly important that you make sure you're visible in the marketplace. It's an obligation.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I'm obligated to tell you how great we are. No, but I agree. I mean, you have to be impactful. You have to then develop that image. You have to create it, and then you have to be trustworthy. And then it has to be repetitive.
Consistent.
And you're right. I mean, we all make instantaneous decisions on when we look at a website, when we look at something online. I think, what is it, 10, 15 seconds? That's the beauty and power of what TikTok did.
That's right.
Right? When they first started, I mean, they were 10, 15 seconds, and wow, it blew up.
Like that.
And everybody's emulating it now, and Reels, and it's just amazing. So who do you think currently are like the top 3 or 4 worldwide brands, and why?
Worldwide brands.
So
you'll see the Amazon,
Amazon,
Apple,
Amazon,
Google,
Apple, Google.
right?
Okay.
A big one that comes to my mind, not necessarily world brand, but is Chick-fil-A.
Oh yes.
Come on.
I know. We love. Oh yeah.
You gotta love.
You gotta love chili, but there are some haters out there.
There is.
But no. So why is? Let's just pick on Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
I mean, we love Chick-fil-A.
I love Chick-fil-A.
I could get it tonight.
Yes.
Probably will.
Yeah.
So, okay, why is Chick-fil-A so amazingly different than the other fast food places?
Yes.
And why are they always smiling and being nice?
It's funny that you mentioned that. So going again back to nonverbal behaviors and how important this is for your business. So Chick-fil-A has roughly about 2,800 stores all over, right? McDonald's and Starbucks, 10,000, 13,000. But yet Chick-fil-A is nipping at the heels of these organizations as far as their profit and their revenue because of the experience that they have to the customer, and they're closed one extra day. So
right.
Yes. So when you see that, you created a great point there. What they have is what's called their core 4 values, and built in that is they smile, they speak with enthusiasm, they develop meaningful relationships and conversations.
Right. They look you in the eye. When you say,
they look you in the eye.
How many of those Chick-fil-A sandwiches do you want?
That's right.
Yeah.
And they look you in the eye. And that's the thing is, when we were talking about earlier about in the leadership side of taking things that's philosophical and creating it into the physical, this organization has built this habit into their employees. So I call it the silent invitation, because that's exactly what it is.
So how did they do that? I think they have a training course. Right?
Yes, yeah. So built into that curriculum of that core 4, it doesn't matter if you're the first day on the job or you're the senior person. You have to emulate those actions.
Wow.
So it speaks volumes, because it's not just, a lot of organizations you'll see, they'll have beautiful mission statements, but no application to the mission.
Right, and they're failures.
They failed because of that. So that's why you see that built into that organization, and that's why they're expanding at the rate they are, because they're authentic in their space.
Yeah, I mean, I always think of it. I've told my kids, I said, this is how you run a business. It's like they've taken the model from the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons and say, hey, you got to smile, you can't point, you got to direct.
That's right.
And you've always got to be there to say, hey, I'm here to help you, whether I'm, the guy coming in, opening the door, or being the maitre d'. You got to know the answer, or you'll find the answer.
That's absolutely
And I think
right.
that's amazing. And we all learn that as plastic surgeons. I mean, I think you can emulate that, because one thing I've learned in plastic surgery is that if my patient has a bad experience at the valet, they're going to ding me.
100%.
And when I was at the university, that's why we had to change valets, because they kept dinging the cars. And so finally I said, said, listen, we've got to fix the valet. They can't keep damaging my patients' cars.
Yes.
Because that was a negative on me, even though I want everybody in my staff to have the same message that I do, and that you're exuding excellence, and that we're here to help you, and that's what we do. But if you fail in any one of those, you'll be off the mat.
100%. It's like Chris Voss says from the book Never Split the Difference. He says the last impression is the lasting impression.
Exactly.
And when you hand the keys, to that, if the interaction's poor with the valet right at their exit, you could have the best surgery, but they will remember that.
I know.
Yes.
And they'll call me and say, Dr. Rohrich, they dinged my car. And I'm going, oh, but you loved your rhinoplasty. But
Yes.
I know. I agree. So I think those are great, powerful messages. But how does Amazon and Google and Apple keep it up? Because, I find that at least, I've built organizations to be the best in the world in plastic surgery at University UT Southwestern, but building it is fun. Sustaining it is something else. Mm-hmm. So how do you build and sustain excellence in a brand? Because we've seen them fail.
Yes.
Kodak and all these others,
It's funny you mentioned that in the way you did. I always look at it in regards to the founders or owners, right? The leaders, whomever it is, they have to be aligned with the brand identity. So if there's ever a discrepancy in that, it becomes difficult for the individuals that work for the organization to follow that path because they've lost guidance because that leader no longer either believes in that or they've exited that company.
Yep.
Or after that, what you'll find is it becomes difficult for the consumer to follow.
Yep.
And you see this kind of currently right now in organizations like Disney and stuff.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
And Disney is an example of that. They've just woked out and everybody's fleeing. It's so sad. And we all love Disney.
That's right.
I remember seeing Walt Disney, himself, on TV and stuff. That was a powerful leader.
Yes.
But that image is gone, and what he stood for is gone,
That's
which
right.
is sad.
Right.
And, I hope we can rescue Disney. I hope the public knows it. Well, they're
Right.
fleeing. And it's very sad, isn't it? It makes me very sad. And,
That's right.
Because they have lost sight of their mission.
And that's what I was saying in regards to they have to be aligned. You have to have the owner has to have the same vision for the current identity of the brand.
Yeah.
It makes it the continuity and easier to follow.
Yeah. No, I agree. And look at the shoes. Nike.
Yes.
Nike's great story. And then the recent brands, I mean, it's been amazing. Some of them have just leapfrogged others, and because basically, they find someone to tell their story, or the Michael Jordan, and basically it just transcends everything else.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to actually meet Phil Knight one evening in Frisco. And,
Really?
Yes, along with Jerry Jones at the same time, and one thing that the Phil Knight embodied was kind of what you were talking about is he really discussed that night the value not just to the customer but to humanity. There was a very philanthropic or philanthropy mindset that was behind the individual, and you see that even within their building. Talk about nonverbals. If you ever look at the Nike headquarters, it's built around the athletes that built the company.
Really?
So so it's integrated into what they do. So when you were talking about sustainment earlier about organizations, it's built into what they do. It's surrounded in that culture, and that's what never leaves. And that's why earlier too, when we were talking about it's an obligation in leadership to pass it on to the next generation. That also goes for what the vision of the organization is if you want it to last a long time. Most businesses are 80% are done in 20 years.
I know.
So you don't see many legacy companies, but like you said earlier, you don't see many legacy people.
No, you're right. So what are the lessons in wrapping up that people can learn if they're trying to build a brand for themselves and their company that truly becomes legacy? I mean, what is, transcending Apple or Amazon, and will they become legacy companies? We all think they are, but maybe not. I mean, because you're only as good as yesterday.
That's right.
I think so. So what would you have as a take-home message for people that are trying to brand themselves and brand their company that hopefully make them legacies?
Sure. For a self-brand, you have to do something extraordinary enough where people want to emulate that, or they aspire to that. Right. And then once you do that, you have to have a product that embodies that. Right. They want to have a piece of that. Michael Jordan did that with the shoe.
Right. And then for plastic surgery, you have to do it with your results.
Yes, correct.
And you have to emulate and say, this is what I intend to do, and you do it. And you showcase it and you talk about it.
That's correct.
And Michael Jordan did it, in and outside of, basketball, and
Yes.
it was more than the shoe.
That's right, way more than that. And what's funny too is like when in the realms of plastic surgery, I would advise to people too, businesses, don't make the transactional, make it transformational.
Right.
And so the purchase has to go beyond the register. When
Right.
after your patient has had the procedure, like you do a wonderful job about having them back on and having the customer tell their transformation and the change, and you can hear it in their voice, the excitement, right? That's
Right.
crucial for organizations to allow the customer to tell the story. You can be have the best
Right.
marketing in the world, but your customer testimonial will always trump that in every way.
100%.
And then lastly, the last thing I would leave all businesses with is don't overlook the nonverbal behaviors and cues of your organization. The reason why is you truly can't afford not to. Grammarly firm, along with the Harris Poll, did a study not too long ago, and it showed a $1.2 trillion loss across the U.S. economy and businesses due to poor communication.
Wow.
So when you break down what communication is to the basic components, nonverbals make up roughly about 80% of that. So nonverbal communication is 80% of all forms of it. So if you're looking for the best return on investment for your organization and to really take it to the next level of enhancement, you have to really focus on those. It becomes, again, a non-negotiable if you're looking to keep your brand around for a long time.
So in practical terms, that means people are walking away. So you need to interview and survey the people that don't come back in your company, right?
Yes, there's elements of all of that, right? It's just as important to understand the negative as well as the positive, right? The hippocampus has the ability to hold bad information, negative information for years. It's about 10 or so. And the other side of that too is Harvard did a study on this. If a person has an unfavorable impression of a business or a person, it requires 8 subsequent meetings with those individuals again, or that organization, to potentially change their mind about them.
Wow, 8.
8. And you have to have 8 positive interactions. And I don't know about you or customers out there. Most people aren't giving businesses 8 chances before they get it right.
No, not today.
Not today.
No, I mean,
Not
you
today.
get one and out, one and you're
That's
done.
right. You'd be lucky if you get 1. A lot of businesses fail at the starting line. They fail to include the customer in their vision, and they prioritize profit over people. And that's where you see them fail before they even get off the ground too. So
Amazing, yeah, and I know I just want to put a plug in for Elon Musk. He's one of those visionaries as well.
Very much.
It's amazing. I mean, whether you like or dislike him, he is another incredible visionary. I mean, look at the things he's done and he's doing, and it's just unbelievable. So,
and when you have such a compelling vision like that, you attract the best of the best. Like, they don't have to put out, feelers to bring people in to fill vacancies. That's not something that's happening. They're literally getting the best, which means their customer will get the best product and the best experience eventually, having the best people in the seats. So if your organization is having issues with those things, you might need to look at your vision to see if it's something that's enticing enough to get new people in.
Exactly. Wise words from a young man. So incredible. Thank you so much.
Yes.
That was very enlightening. So again, give us your comments about your branding. What would you think becomes your brand, and what would you do different? So thank you very much again, Eric. It's so great to have you on. We're going to have you back, and you invigorated me. I've got to go do some more branding. All right.
I'm super excited.
All right. Give us your comments. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Rohrich.
Yeah, you rock.